Welcome back to our lesson where we are um, looking at how to perform CRUD. And in the last lesson, we wrote a handler function called create quote form that displayed the quote form. So what I want to do in this lesson is to actually write the code that accepts processes the inputs that the user enters into the form, and then send those off to the table, to the quotations table in our database. Let's do a bit of cleaning up. Right away, you notice that the handler function, they're getting a bit long. So what I want to do, I want to create a file. Okay, and I'm going to call this file handlers.go. Okay, and in this file, I want to put all my handler functions. So I will just take this one. Well, it's both of them. I will take the home, and then I will take the create quote form. Okay, and I will just cut those and paste those in here. All right, so our main.go file is much shorter, but notice now it's saying, wait a minute, where is home? Where is create form? Okay, so we'll fix that. In the meantime, this HTML template, we don't need that anymore. All right. So let's remove that. Okay. And so we do need net because we use it here. Okay, so let me go back to handlers. And so you might be asking, well, how on earth, how will main know where to find these two handler functions? Well, look here, package main. Every file you write must belong to a package. So if I come up here and I say, okay, you know what, this file is going to belong also to package main. So as far as Go is concerned, it's as if we never moved the file. Okay, so a package, once files are in a package, they're able to be accessed. So if I come here to main.go, you'll notice that we don't have the errors anymore because Go or main actually now can see the home handler function and it can see the create quote function. Now I will say this. We can only see the function, but we cannot see what is inside the function. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, once you're in the same package, you're able to see at the top level, you're able to see the functions, and you're able to see anything that is created outside of a function, such as a struct. Okay, but you cannot access anything inside the function. Okay, and so you may be asking, well, what if I need something in the function? And what if I need to initialize something, but it's found in some other part of the code? Okay, we'll discuss that in the upcoming lessons. But for now, just remember that you can move the handler functions to their own file. Okay, so notice Visual Studio Code automatically included everything I needed. Okay, so I need HTML template. Okay, I need the log, okay, and I need net HTTP. So I need these three packages, okay. So the way I have my editor set up, they are automatically inserted for me. But in your case, if you have not set up your editor to automatically add the packages, then remember, these are the three you need, okay. All right, so that's step one. We have a bit more space now. All right, a bit more space. Good. So the next thing I want to do is to look at connecting or creating a connection to our DBMS, to our table, to our database. Okay, so if you remember in previous lessons, we looked at how to create that connection where we needed the database SQL, we needed this one, libpq, and then we also needed to list the credentials. We needed to set up data source name variable, and then we had to call SQL at open. All right. So what I want to do, I want to take this code and I want to use it in main to create that connection. Okay. So I will take this. Okay. All right. So I'll take this and I'll put this in main. Okay. All right. And then I also need the credentials, which are up here. Okay. I'll move that out here. Good. And then I finally need this package here. Right? This is one we need when you want to create a connection. Okay. So let's move that over. All right. All right. So we don't need this one right now. This one is when we're actually trying to perform the insert or update or delete or create command. Okay. Commands. Okay. So this is when we're going to actually do the SQL or create the SQL code. For now, all we need is this. Okay, so I have this. I have this, and then I can create my connection, and then I can test. Okay. Now, let's do this. Let's move this code and let's put it into a function that we will call from inside main. Okay, so I'm going to create a function. Let's call this function set up the database, set up DB. Okay, it doesn't take any parameters. However, it will return to me the database connection, DB, and whatever error, if there is one. Okay, and then let's just quickly check. So I'm going to say if error not nil, we want to stop the program. We want to stop the application because if the database is not up and running, there's no point in continuing the application. Okay, all right. So this is how we set up our database. So all I have to do is take all of this and remove it. And I'm going to place it in its own function. Okay. Oops. Yeah. All right. So remember, we always want to try to um, keep things sort of contained. Okay, so I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call this function setup db, and this function doesn't take anything. However, it has to return that database connection. Okay, and we know that the database connection is a pointer to SQL.db. That's the type, right? That's the type. And we will return an error in case there is an error. Okay, and so let me paste my code. And so, I'm thinking of it, why don't we just pull this into our function as well, right? We don't need it to be outside anymore, because nobody else needs to see it except in here. Okay, so these are the constants from my database connection, and then I'm going to create my data source name variable string. Okay, and then I'm going to establish the connection. Okay, and so if when I call open, notice open returns a connection and an error. So I need to make sure that there was no error. So if the error is not nil, I no longer will say log.fatal. I will instead return. Okay, so I will exit the function and then I will simply return nil. Okay, since there was no connection created, and I will return the error that occurred. Okay, now moving on, if there is a connection, okay, if everything works successfully, then this if here would be skipped, right? Okay, and then we would be able to test the connection by issuing ping. Okay, now if the ping resulted in an error, then of course we want to also return from this function. Okay, and so I will simply return nil again, meaning nothing works, and then I'll return the error message. All right. Okay, now what happens if our ping is successful? Then obviously it means everything was set up correctly. So I will return DB because DB has a valid connection. And then since there are no errors, I'll just say nil. Nil means absence of errors. So you might be asking, what about this defer? Well, this defer shouldn't be here anymore because we don't want to close the connection. Okay, we close the connection in the function that is calling setup db, and so setup db is actually being called from main. So we want to always defer here. Okay, we want to defer here. Okay, so it's giving me an error. It's saying you cannot create a variable called because one was already created. So to fix that, I just make this assignment. Okay, remember, you can only use the shorthand notation once. If you want to reassign the variable, then you have to use the assignment sign. Okay, so again, I will call the setup db, which will create a connection for me. If it does it successfully, then it will return the connection and along with nil. And so I have to check the error variable to check that there are no errors. And if there is an error, I will simply halt the program. If there is no error, then I will continue by creating my mocks and so on. Now the defer simply means that if my program crashes, if my program closes, okay, before I exit main, I must make sure to close the connection. All right. Now you might be asking, why don't I put this? Why couldn't I leave this in here in setup DB? Well, the answer is because it will close the connection. Okay. So think about it. The point of db.close is to close the connection. So if I put it in here, what's going to happen? I'm going to set up the connection. Okay, I'm going to set it up. Okay. And before I return, remember, the defer is the last thing that has to be done. Okay. So when I return this connection to main, well, the connection should be an open connection. It should be usable. But if I put defer in here now, the function has to execute it. And what comes after the defer? Close the connection. So when you're now in main and you have db, the connection is now closed. So you no longer have a valid connection. So that's the reason why we cannot put the defer db.close in here, because we will prematurely close the connection before we even start using it. Okay, so we want to keep the connection open and only close it when our application closes or crashes. All right. Okay. I hope that made sense. All right. So we are set up. I think we have everything we need. We have our setup DB. Okay. And we have our call to setup DB. And so we are ready. Let's see what problem is telling me. Okay, so it's telling me that I need to import the lib pq. Okay, so let's do that again. Go get github.com/lib/pq. Okay, and then I'm gonna say go mod tidy. All right, the go mod tidy just tells Go, okay, you know what, make sure that you incorporate this third-party package, and wherever there's a mention of it, make sure the code links up properly. Okay, so that's what Go mod tidy does. Make sure everything is linked up and ready to be used. All right, so we are set. The next thing we want to do is to write the handler function that will grab the values from the form and then send them off to our quotations table. Okay, so before I wrap up this video, let me just give that function and that handler function a name. So we're going to call it create quote. Okay. Okay. All right, and then we need to actually have a route. Okay, and so let's func, and so we're gonna call that route. What name did I give it? Oh, okay. I gave it the name quote add. Okay, and it's gonna call our create quote handler function. Of course, our job now is to implement the create quote function. Okay, so I'll leave it here for this video. All right. In the next one, we will go ahead and we will implement the code that allows us to insert a quote. I'll see you in that video.